So, continuing on the same subject, now we have polymorphs, the difference between legend and science. This article is from the August-September 2025 Nexus Magazine, Volume 32, Number 5. The witnesses described a creature walking upright, hunchbacked, built like a man, muscular, with human-like arms, black hair covering its body, and canine-like legs. Its eyes were red and shiny. This fits the bill of what Matt was describing in the last video.
There's some weird stuff going on here.
I found it fascinating with Matt's experience how this creature ended up inside of an abandoned steel mill. But this particular one is actually a little different. On August the 27th, 2005, an American trucker named Scott called a radio station to describe a strange encounter. He saw a creature eating a dead deer on the side of the road one evening, resembling a cross between a dog and a monkey, similarly, he said, to the werewolf creature in the moving Van Helsing. Another werewolf sighting occurred in Texas in March 2006. The witness described a creature walking upright, hunchbacked, built like a man, muscular with human-like arms, black hair covering its body, and canine legs. Its eyes were red and shiny, and it was about 1.8 meters or 6 feet tall. It jumped across the road in 3 or 4 bounds and disappeared into the cemetery.
They do like cemeteries, don't they?
It sure seems that way. Here's another one. In 2018, in the Alps Maritimes, a witness in his 50s living in Palon Valley was returning home later in the evening from Monaco when he saw a strange creature near the cemetery of La Trinite. It looked like a bipedal wolf with burning red eyes, no pupils, hunchbacked with prominent teeth. Isn't that something? That this is what these people are seeing. It always has these prominent teeth
Yeah,
and red eyes.
yeah,
This is the third time we've seen this.
yeah. They seem to be quite regular. It's almost as if it's part of the whole process.
And then you
Hunchback.
have the creature in the Philippines that they claim is a terrifying shapeshifter, and it haunts the woods and jungles of those islands. And again, a strong odor of decay suggests it's present. Isn't that funny
Yeah,
how that's what we hear with these skunk apes?
yeah. Same thing again.
And the same thing with the Virginia case. That was sulfur and ammonia, like you said. But this is more of a decaying smell. There's been a few videos that I've seen of fellows that are out there looking for the Sasquatch. As soon as they come across branches that have been twisted and built in certain ways, and then they will look inside at what looks like a built nest of some type, then they'll walk around, and then all of a sudden, they get this pungent smell like there's a dead animal, and they look all over the place, but they can't find it. And
Yeah,
usually this happens just before one of these skunk apes or Bigfoot
yeah.
start throwing rocks at them.
Seems to be a common feature. The smell is mentioned by so many people, it must be present. There are so many parts of this world. I mean, we think we know it all, don't we? We think everywhere has been explored, everywhere has been examined. No, it hasn't. There are huge areas, especially in Canada, which is where this author comes from. She's a Canadian anthropologist. Huge areas which probably never had humans anywhere near them. So you'd think there'd be places around the country, especially Canada, it's such a big country. If these creatures are sensible, and they appear to be, they will go to places where humans are not present. And humans require certain facilities to enable them to survive. These creatures obviously don't need the same facilities, so they go to those locations, the places where humans don't go. And they can survive there, wherever they choose, and humans won't see them. They can't identify them. It is reported so often. I mean, the hunt for the Yeti, the famous Himalayan wild creature that has been identified by its footprints mainly, because that's all it's ever seen. Because there are places in the Himalayas and in mountain ranges like the Andes and the Rockies and the Pyrenees where humans are not present because they're not conducive to human survival.
But they were also saying that there is a rare disease that is at work in some of these cases, and the medical condition is called hypertrichosis. And that consists of an abnormal development of the hair system present from birth, which develops over time. Around 1556, Peter Gonzalez, originally from the Canary Islands, was a known example. He was initially nearly executed by peasants who were fearful of superstitious beliefs because of his appearance. His body was entirely covered in long, soft hair. Admitted to the court of Henry II, King of France, he married a French woman and had several children, three of whom displayed the same disease. In 1885, we have Adrian Jeftichuk, a 55-year-old Russian peasant nicknamed the Dogman, who was exhibited in Paris. But it's the same thing. Remember those two brothers that were asked to go on the X-Files and they refused because they have that same condition. They literally look like dogmen. They have all that hair on their face and arms and legs, it's everywhere, and they're covered in it, their whole face. But there is one difference between these people and what people are seeing. These people don't have massive fangs and red glowing eyes.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, that seems to be missing. Maybe it's a different sort of species.
And they don't have that smell either.
No, that's correct. It's good that people are identifying these different anomalies, different facilities, different appearances, because some may be explainable by medical intervention. There could be a medical disease. It's quite common for some humans, very few humans, to have excessive body hair, but not to this extent, not so that they appear to be like a bear, which has body hair. Humans don't generally have body hair. Is there another species of animal that we haven't yet fully identified? It would appear so. One can quite easily say that at least 50% of the surface of the planet has not been explored, identified. It's not been monitored to the extent that certain areas are. So it's reasonable to suppose that creatures trying to avoid humans, because they fear humans who seem to want to kill them most of the time, they want to avoid humans so they don't get killed. Who's to say they don't exist? These creatures don't exist. Of course they do.
Well, there's something out there for sure.
Yep, there's definitely something out there.
Because I was watching a show yesterday and there was this fella. He had such a violent encounter and it was on Cabin in the Woods. It was a new show that came out. As this fella's relating the story, you could see the fear in this guy's eyes. He said there were the three of them there. They were very good friends. But after that incident, no, not anymore, because both of his friends froze up to a point where one of them was holding the shotgun and he couldn't move. And he kept saying, "Help me." But they were so frozen with fear, what was going on here. You had a group of them, and he said they were running back and forth and back and forth. So they had the three of them surrounded inside of that house. And when one of his friends saw that creature looking in the window, which he claimed was a Sasquatch, it was baring its teeth at him. We all know what that means. You're in
Yep,
trouble, buddy.
yep, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
You get out of there.
So when they finally did make a break for it, he said he pumped, I don't know how many rounds into the woods. And he said that one of them was at least 18 foot tall. But he also said that you could just see the shadow. It wasn't out there in the open where you could see it. But he said he pumped a few rounds. And I believe it was a 12 gauge shotgun. But
Oh, cool.
anyways, he pumped quite a few rounds at the thing, didn't do anything.
Cause serious damage, normal to a human, a 12 gauge shotgun.
But then he said after that, when they did make it into the boat and started the motor, as they were just leaving the dock, these boulders came flying by. And he said that one of them hit the water and it sounded like a shotgun went off. That's how powerful it was. So the fellow from Cabin in the Woods, he had his brother who was a professional shot putter. And they tried to take the same size rock and throw it into the ocean, into the water, just to
Yeah.
see if it would make that same snap, that shotgun snap. He couldn't do it. So whatever threw that rock was massive. He said that what they were trying to do was disable the motor. They were aiming at the motor, and the cover of the motor was just filled with dents because they kept trying to nail it with rocks. I guess they wanted them. I mean, if you got a few 12 gauge shells coming your way, you're going to start getting pretty mad.
Yes, you are. Not the sort of thing you want to have happen. I mean, it's similar to an encounter with a big animal. whether it's a lion or an elephant or a leopard, they would come at you very powerfully, which is why when you're going on safari, you have guides with you who are armed because they have to ensure that if any animal attacks you, you can be protected. Now, if these are intelligent creatures, which they appear to be from the actions they take, and they're confronting humans, and they're fully aware that humans are dangerous animals themselves and could attack them, they will do their best to disable them, hence throwing rocks at the boat to try to stop it. Because those humans were firing guns at them, which they're obviously familiar with, trying to stop them being attacked. This is what happens when creatures encounter other dangerous animals. Humans will be considered dangerous and to be eliminated because of the way they behave towards their fellow creatures. That's why they're best left alone. And maybe the pungent smell that is so often encountered is a defense mechanism, like a skunk has a defense mechanism. It makes such an unpleasant smell that whatever is trying to attack you will be discouraged and disappear. It makes sense to consider that. But to say that these creatures don't exist because we haven't found one is just so wrong. How do we know they don't exist? Of course they do. They've been filmed, they've been spotted, they've been identified.
Well, that one video that we did, and I also showed it again in the last one, there was that Sasquatch that was literally tearing a stump out of the ground. You have roots, you have all the soil that's still clumped to that stump, to the root system,
Yeah,
and then to break off part of that tree and then hold it right at the very end
yeah.
and then start clubbing away at the rest of it.
That
You,
takes some strength.
to hold the tree at the end, like right at the very end, and use it like a baseball bat vertically. I mean, I don't care how big you are. You could be Arnold Schwarzenegger in his prime, and he would never be able to pick a tree up and do that.
That series, Strongest Man or
Oh,
Strongest
yeah.
Man in the World, I mean, they can lift incredible things.
But they can only lift it so high and for
Yeah.
so long.
Yeah.
This thing picks it up, grabs it right by the end, and repeatedly swings.
For it to be able to do that, that's quite normal.
Yeah.
It has strength that humans can't approach. So these creatures are very different from humans. And they're obviously very careful about making sure that there's nothing left around. If they die, they obviously get removed because we don't find any remains as you would a human if he died.
Yeah, but again, we bury our dead, so you're not going to find them anywhere. And
That's
I think that that's what happens with these creatures. They bury their dead. You're never going to find them. I mean, we leave markers. Why would they?
They don't want to be found, so they won't leave markers. I mean, how many people have been right through the Canadian Arctic, which is a large area, and examined it? I mean, trappers in the 19th century were up there. They probably reported some of these things and nobody believed them. But just a few trappers in the Canadian wilderness doesn't mean to say that every part of it has been explored or examined. It hasn't. There are huge areas.
Do you remember that one incident? There was an Indian village that was not too far from the waterfront. This was around 1870, 1890, in that general area. They kept saying that there was this creature that came out of the wood, and they described it somewhat like a big Sasquatch, big hairy man. It would scare the life out of them. And so
Yeah,
the elders told the kids, don't go into that bush. We don't want you going in there, not even in the daytime. You stay
yeah,
out of there because
yeah.
that thing will get you. I believe it was 10 years later, they finally had it, enough of it to a point where they were scared so bad that the village vanished. And this is one thing that I found very strange, that every one of the graves were dug up and the bodies were gone.
That's interesting. It's a very interesting point.
And so what happened later on in the early 1900s, more settlers went in there.
Yeah.
Then a couple of weeks later, they get settled in and the whole thing starts all over again. So they took off out of there. Then another group came in somewhere in the 40s and 50s. They tried settling there. Same thing happened again. It's been abandoned to this day.
They were trying to take over the territory of another group of people who didn't want them there. Extraordinary.
This thing was, again, massive.
There's no reason why they can't be massive. I mean, humans have a sort of a general size between 4.5 and 6.5 feet. And mainly males are bigger, females are smaller. And the same thing would apply to any creature that is able to breed. There's so much we have yet to understand about our planet. We think we know it all, but we don't. There are certain areas in the Arctic are almost off limits because of the difficulty of reaching it, let alone living there. It doesn't provide the sort of environment that humans can survive in easily. But it may well be the environment in which other creatures can survive quite easily if they have the ability to use the landscape, use the environment to their advantage. And they would quite reasonably not want other creatures like humans invading their territory. So they will make sure that humans are removed.
Yeah, I mean, I remember once we were doing some electrical work and it was the Sasquatch Inn. It's up around the Harrison Mills area. We were up there doing some work. It was a trailer park, and
Right.
we were just upgrading some of the services in that area, in that trailer park. We went to the little restaurant that was in the Sasquatch Inn. There was a little cafe in there. And I remember Norm and I went in there, and some of the stories that this waitress was telling that went
Yeah.
on in the
Yeah.
woods just behind where we were working. I tell you honestly, I kept my wits about me.
It's obviously a well-named inn.
You know that there's a lot of people that have gone there looking for this creature and have seen it. It's a very popular Bigfoot sighting area. That's why they named it the Sasquatch Inn.
That makes sense.
That was in Harrison Mills, which they call the Harrison River Valley. I used to fly in there actually. There was a gravel landing strip and there's a golf course there. And we used to fly in there. It's off of the Lougheed Highway. It's out that way because I remember the bridge. I would always look for that bridge, and it was about a mile past that bridge before you turned left, and then you could see the golf course and that little gravel landing strip.
I was just checking out Sasquatch Inn and Harrison Mills, looking at the area around there. It's big Sasquatch country, isn't it, that one? Everything they need. No humans, or very few humans. Lots of water, lots of wood. Obviously, they don't make fires or they'd be spotted. Highway 7, isn't it? A big bridge across the lake there, just by Harrison Mills.
I've flown there more than I've driven.
Driving in the 80s would have been quite a problem before the roads were there.
The place where we were doing with the trailer park, it was, I believe, if I remember, it was just down the road from the Sasquatch Inn. Then you had to turn and then you had to go into the bushes quite a way. And it's all dirt road.
So it's not surprising that there will be a lot of Sasquatch being seen, hence the Sasquatch Inn.
The waitress had some good stories to tell because she would hear it from everybody that came in
Yeah,
there. But she
that's
had one herself. She had a good encounter herself with one of these, and it wasn't that far from that trailer park. Other people in that area had seen it as well. We're not talking about a man in a costume here.
no, 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 of course not. A real creature.
And I remember she was saying something about rocks being thrown. They're not a big, huge boulder like this other fellow was describing. They're just like smaller rocks coming.
Yeah.
You know what she said? This is what got me. She says their aim is impeccable because they can hit just about anything that they aim for. And she said, if that Sasquatch wanted me dead, it could have hit me in the head with one of those rocks, and I would never have known what hit me. So they go whizzing past her head. And it reminds me of exactly the same thing that fella cabin in the woods said. You know,
Yeah,
rocks went whizzing by his head. They went whizzing by his daughter's head.
that's probably how they get their food. If they're going to see some sort of small creature in the woods and they want to eat something and they're good at aim, they could easily kill it.
Oh, you're not kidding. Especially with the way she said that it wasn't just one rock either, because when the first one came by, she says it hit a tree, like it came right by her ear and then went into a tree, like it gnawed, you know, like it went thunk when
Yeah.
it thunk when it hit the tree. And then when she turned around, another one came on the other side. And again, she said if that thing would have wanted me dead, it would have knocked me clean out. It could have. So that's twice. That Sasquatch had two chances to nail her, and yet it chose to throw the rocks by her head. I
She
don't know if
probably
it was spooking her or
could well be, because obviously Sasquatch may even be intelligent enough to know that if it killed a human, somebody would come after it. Go away, it's my territory. I mean, Canada is a very, very big place, unexplored, totally unexplored.
That place gave me the creeps, though.
They
Especially
probably
when
would.
you got up, there was a cabin that the electrical distribution system was in, and then all the cables ran out individually from the meters. It was when you got up near that cabin, that's when I felt uneasy. Also, when I was coming down the road, about the last quarter mile, coming down that dirt road to get into that trailer park area, when we first went in there, she didn't really say much. Second time we went in there, she talked a little bit. And then the third time we went in there, that's when she started telling us the story. So she started getting to know us a little better. But
Well,
yeah, you're right. I mean, look at all of the uncharted territory out there.
huge, huge areas. Of course, that's where a creature like that would live.
Yeah.
It can survive very well. And if it can aim rocks accurately, it can kill things just as humans can with guns. But the idea, the fact that you felt you were being watched, you probably were being watched, but you weren't aware of where it was coming from. It's what Rupert Sheldrake described, the sense of being watched when you're walking along a street and you suddenly, oh, there's somebody watching me. And you don't know where it's coming from, you don't know who it is, but you're aware of it.
It's funny that feeling only happened though when I was working in that cabin, around that cabin.
Yeah.
When you got further down to the actual trailer park where the pads were, concrete pads were, it didn't bother me one bit. But just when you got up further toward that cabin, that just gave me the creeps. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, it's probably best to act on it as well if you feel that.
But you had no choice. You had to stay there and work. Yeah,
Yeah.
we had to.
You're probably glad to get out of it as well.
Three times we went up there, and then the fourth was to finish it, and that was it. Yeah.
Somebody was aware of your presence and wondering what you were doing.
Yeah, and the only people that were there was the manager of the trailer park, myself, and Norm was further down working on the concrete pads, putting new outdoor breaker boxes in there. So he was down there, and I was up at the cabin, and the manager was down with Norm. So I was the only one in that place. Yeah,
You were on your own
I was on my own. Yeah.
and there was somebody watching you. What is this person doing? This naked human? They were probably just interested to see what you were doing.
Well, I had the tool belt on full of tools, and the
Yep.
clinking, clanking going on. So,
Could have attracted attention. Yeah.
yeah.
These things happen. I mean, that I think is the way it works. There are huge areas on this planet unexplored. I mean, Russia has got vast areas of tundra, similar to Canada. It's part of the whole worldwide environment. It's mainly fir trees, lakes, streams. I mean, look at Devon Island. That's the other side of Canada. What's that used for? There's nobody there. Well, except the odd desert rat or something.
Well, it's used to recreate Mars.
So yeah, there's so many unexplained mysteries. They seem strange to us because we can't explain them. But if we accept that there are vast areas of the planet, like there are deserts unexplored, there's rainforest unexplored, in the Amazon, Indonesia has got a lot of rainforest, unexplored rain, because nobody can get into them. So there are creatures living there. We keep finding new creatures, don't we? Quite large animals as well in some cases, size of pigs, boars. Who's to say there aren't human-like creatures around as well? Of course there are. Of course there are. Of course there are.